I'm Alexis Gonzalez with the Ryerson, and joining me today is Lisa Coombs. She has an amazing story to talk about her struggles overcoming alcohol and drug addiction. First of all, thank you so much for being on the show, Lisa.
Thank you for having me.
How many drinks would you think that you would have in a night, if you even remember?
It depends what I was drinking. For one, like if it was beer, it'd be tall boys, it'd be like 5 or more of them. And then if it was wine, it'd be a whole bottle or a liter or so of wine. And then if it was liquor, I'm a bit more of a lightweight, so it'd only be like a Mickey or so that would end up in a blackout. But yeah, that'd be pretty much my amount.
Did you usually go out with friends? Did you social drink a lot?
Yes, in the beginning, yeah, I was definitely social parties only on weekends. But then that obviously progressed as more of a daily time sort of habit as I got into university. But yeah, I definitely started first out as a social aspect of my life. Yeah.
Did your friends help or hinder your problem with alcohol addiction?
I guess, well, they didn't really hinder it, but they also didn't really enable me either. It was more of just, they were normal drinkers, you know, it was high school. And so, like, parties, you know, they didn't really think there was a problem. They just thought, oh, I just don't know how to handle my alcohol. And that's what I thought as well. I just didn't know how to handle it, so I stopped drinking hard liquor and just switched to beer or wine, but the same result always happened in the end. I would always black out or something bad would happen.
When did you start realizing that you had a problem?
I didn't know I had a problem, honestly, until I started rehab. I was in a lot of denial. I used my age as a big excuse of my drinking and my partying. Called it partying, didn't really call it addiction. And so yeah, it wasn't until I was in rehab that I really discovered that I had a problem. Yeah.
And what made you want to go to rehab to fix that?
I honestly, in the beginning, didn't want to go to rehab. It was a series of events that eventually led an intervention sort of happening. My sisters pretty much said, either we're gonna like tell mom and dad, or you're gonna go into rehab, and it could be a lot smoother for them to find out. I went into treatment and ended up enjoying it a lot. I came to terms with accepting going to rehab and accepting I had a problem.
And did your family eventually find out about your rehab experience and your struggles with alcohol?
Yes, they did find out. They found out when I was in treatment. So the whole deal with my sisters was that we can put you into rehab, and then we'll tell mom and dad when you're in there so they know that you're in a safe environment. As opposed to if I was against it, then they would make me tell mom and dad on my own, and so I was really, really against that part, so I agreed to going into rehab and them finding out when I was already in there. And so when they found out, they weren't really happy with it. My mom acted crazy. She went nuts. She was really heartbroken and hurt and angry. And my dad didn't really outwardly express anything. He didn't know how to handle it really. He was more in shock, so his expression of finding out was a lot more reserved, but I'm sure he was very upset finding out.
Has it been a problem in your family before? Has anyone in your family had it?
No one in my family's had issues with drugs or alcohol, and that includes like aunts and uncles. Like it just doesn't run in my family. So yeah, it was very isolated. I wasn't brought up in an alcoholic or drug using environment, which is very common for people who have addiction, but there are also many people who it's just their way of coping and that they just develop it on their own.
So now you've been dry for 8 months, correct? How does it feel to be dry for that long?
It's really amazing. I never thought I would be sober for this long. I would never have imagined all the things that I've been able to accomplish, not so much materialistically, but with myself and relationships with other people. Through recovery, it's been such a process of just self-discovery and rebuilding and mending relationships that were broken and creating better ones now. And I'm a lot more comfortable with myself as a person, and I'm more able to cope with daily life struggles that a lot of people are able to handle, but as an addict, they're a lot more problematic.
I assume you still fight the temptation to go back to that sort of lifestyle. How do you cope with that whole process?
I make sure I don't put myself in an environment that I know I will be tempted. I do not go to bars anymore. I don't go out and party. I'm just too early in recovery to even test those waters. But if I do get a trigger, I step back from the situation, take deep breaths. I pray to my higher power. When you're in rehab and doing like the 12-12 program, they talk about a spiritual higher power that you try and look up to and reach out for help. And so doing meditations, prayer, deep breathing, stepping away from the situation, talking to someone is a big thing I do to help me get out of it. I call either my sponsor I have through Alcoholics Anonymous, or I talk to my sister who I live with if I'm having a problem, or I call a friend. And those are ways that I can get out of a trigger situation.
Is it hard to be a student while also trying to resist alcohol and that temptation?
It can, yes, it can be difficult when everyone you see is posting photos on Instagram or Facebook of, you know, Friday night out, Saturday night out, Thursday drinks. So it's like you miss that lifestyle, but you have to really remember what the reality of it was. My mom's asked me this before of, don't you miss going out? Don't you miss it ever? And I'm like, I do, but I'm only deceiving myself if I thought I was actually having a good time. 9 out of the 10 of those times I would go out, I wouldn't remember in the end. I would go out, spend a whole bunch of money, and then not even remember it. It didn't matter what the event was, what day it was. It would just end up in a blackout, be totally not worth it, end up doing risky behavior. It was just never a really good scene for me. And so I always have to constantly remind myself of those remember whens.
What kind of advice do you have for students who are going through the same kind of struggles?
There comes a stigma with being a young addict, and it's really hard when you do go to meetings or you talk to someone else. It's really easy to be deceitful in that you're just a young 20-something-year-old. You'll grow out of it. You might not. I've met hundreds of people that didn't grow out of it, and I don't think I would have grown out of it either if I didn't get into rehab. Age doesn't have anything to do with your actions or your way of coping. It's really serious, and that just because you're not the bum under the bridge with a brown paper bag with a bottle in it doesn't mean that you don't have a problem. And yes, like even though there are a lot of other stigmas with being an addict that oh, you have to look this way, you're not smart, or this and that. It doesn't, like, addiction is not prejudice. It doesn't discriminate. It attacks anyone who is, who's able to, like, get a hold of it. But, like, I just want people to know that there is help out there, and there are ways to fight it, and sobriety isn't as boring as it might seem, and that the rewards are way more than what the way you were living before.
So that's all the time we have for today, Lisa. Thank you once again for joining us.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
I'm Alexis Gonzalez for the Ryerson. Thanks for watching.